One of the strong arguments against the moon landings is the belt of radiation surrounding the Earth that the astronauts had crossed through, and they are the only astronauts to have ever come through these belts. But Robert Brayanek has said that it was no problem, for the astronauts could go around the most dangerous part of these radiations in order to get as little radiations as possible. Oh really, could they? Brayanek should have read more attentively the NASA documentation describing the trajectory followed by the command module, for he would have seen that the command module was not taking any trajectory, but a very precise trajectory instead, which was consisting in making a plane change when the orbit around the Earth was crossing the lunar orbital plane in order to put itself on this orbital plane and then continuing the travel in this plane. The purpose of this maneuver was to optimize the consumption of propellant. Taking the trajectory preconized by Brayanek would have forced the command module to consume too much propellant, and it would have jeopardized the moon mission. Apollo 11 happened close to the summer solstice circled on this representation. At this time the Earth is inclined so that the North Pole is closer to the Sun than the South Pole. The orbital plane of the Moon is close to the solar orbital plane, but a little closer to the equatorial plane of the Earth of around 5 degrees. So the orbital plane of the Moon makes with the equatorial plane of the Earth an angle equal to 23 degrees. Angle between the equatorial plane and the solar orbit, minus 5 degrees, that is 18 degrees. So as the command module traveled in the lunar orbital plane, it means that it followed the direction indicated by the yellow line, which makes with the main direction of the radiation belts an angle of 18 degrees. And you can see that this direction does not allow to avoid the dangerous part of the radiation belts. So Brayanek has imagined a trajectory which is pure fantasy and does not correspond with the trajectory which had been planned by the NASA engineers. But the Apollo believers are happy, for they figure that Brayanek has managed to find a trajectory which solves the problem of radiations. When the command module is close to the Earth, it sees it under too wide angles for the Hasselblad camera to be able to capture the complete Earth. The camera could only see a part of it. But the blue marble was taken at a distance of 45,000 kilometers from the Earth, and at that distance the Earth is seen under an angle of 16 degrees only, which means that the Hasselblad camera was perfectly able to have a complete view of the Earth. You can notice that the Earth of the blue marble is entirely lit by the sun. We can see no shadow on it, no crescent. That means that the command module was exactly in the direction of the Sun when this photo was taken, and also that the command module was in the solar orbital plane. Yet it shouldn't have been in this plane, but in the lunar orbital plane according to the trajectory that the NASA engineers had planned. At the time of Apollo 17, it was close to winter solstice, and the Earth was at the position which has been circled on this representation. The Earth was seen spinning this way from the solar orbital plane, and it was seen spinning that way from the lunar orbital plane. The view of the Earth which is the closest to the blue marble, taken from the animation of the Earth spinning in the solar plane, since apparently the blue marble has been taken in that plane, is this one. If we compare this view with the blue marble, we can see that there is a clear problem with Africa, that we can perfectly identify on the blue marble. Africa is oversized on the blue marble relatively to what it should look like, as shown on the real view of the Earth. But it is not the only observation we can make on this blue marble. There is still a more shrewd observation we can make. As the Earth we see is entirely lit, it means that the command module was in the direction of the Sun when this photo was taken, and also that the meridian which appears on the middle of this view corresponds to noon. So it would have been around noon on the island of Madagascar, that we can see on the center of the view, or close to it, when the blue marble was taken. But was it? We can check it. Apollo 17 was launched at 5 hours 33 minutes UTC in the morning, 7 hours 33 minutes GT. According to the timeline of Apollo 17, the Blue Marble would have been taken 5 hours and 6 minutes later, which puts the capture of the Blue Marble at 10 hours and 39 minutes UTC, so 11 hours and 39 minutes GT. So it was just a little before noon on the meridian of Greenwich when the Blue Marble was taken. On the planisphere, the meridian on which it was noon at the time that the Blue Marble was taken, just a little left of Paris, is shown. Here is shown the view of the animation of the spinning Earth, which is the closest to this moment. This is the view of the Earth command module should have seen when the Blue Marble was taken. But if we compare this view with the Blue Marble, we can see that there is a big problem. Africa is not at all positioned the same on the two views. On the real view it is positioned right, and on the Blue Marble it is positioned left. This means that there is no way that the Blue Marble can have been taken by Apollo 17 at the indicated moment during its travel to the Moon, and this for a good reason, which is that Apollo 17 never went to the Moon.